Hey everyone, it's 10 types, and rotation is right around the corner, which means we are losing a ton of really powerful, really interesting, really impactful cards. And today I'm going to be going over 10, I guess, of the most meaningful. These aren't necessarily the 10 most meaningful. And so if you have any questions about ones I didn't cover in this video, leave them in the comment section. I could even make a part 2, though I don't foresee myself making that. That being said, I will actually, I mean, there have been times I've talked about, the 10 best cards leaving and things like that. I will actually be doing a like a Hall of Fame type of video with Uncommon Fossil coming up, which is the 10 best cards rotating. So if you are looking for that specifically, that'll be coming in the future, and subscribe so you don't miss that. But these are 10 of the most impactful cards. Some Pokemon, some trainers. I think I did an even split. And I'm going to tell you what cards you should use to replace these cards post rotation. It's a bit more one-to-one for Pokemon that aren't the main piece of a deck, or cards that aren't the main piece of the deck, like trainers. Gardevoir EX will be obviously a difficult one to talk about, as as is probably not very surprising to you. But anyways, let's just hop right in, and I'll explain what I mean with Gardevoir EX here. Gardevoir EX, of course, is a very powerful card and deck. It's been has it been a top 5 deck since it's come out? I don't know. I'd actually be interested in hearing people's thoughts on that in the comment section as well. But obviously, it's been very, very good. And it is very, very good because of its ability Psychic Embrace. As often as you like during a turn, you may attach a basic Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your Psychic Pokemon, and if you do, then you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon, and you can't knock it out using this ability, as in you can't use this ability if it would be knocked out, not that it just won't be knocked out. And yeah, this is obviously very good. It's good for a few different reasons, and looking for a comparison, I do think I found a decent option, but obviously it's not going to be the same, but it is closer than I was actually expecting as well. So obviously, this gets a lot of Psychic Energy onto your board, and really that's what makes it good. It does get damage counters on your board as well, specifically for something like Munkidori. And Munkidori, of course, if you didn't know, it's not rotating. I actually had someone say that they thought it was rotating, and then they were, I believe, disappointed to find out that it wasn't. But if you want to play Munkidori, there's stuff like, I guess, Frostlass. That's pretty different. But there's also the Stadium Risky Ruins. I cannot spell. Oh, I hope I didn't make a typo in the thumbnail either. I haven't made it yet, but I keep making typos in the thumbnails. But yeah, it puts damage counters on Pokemon. There are other cards like it, but if you're looking for something to put damage counters on your board, that's an option. But of course, you want Psychic Acceleration, and the best card that pairs with it. I guess I'll just look at some decks here. Gardevoir EX, commonly. Oh wait, it's not in all these decks. Is it? We see. Here we go. Mega Dancy EX. Mega Dancy EX was actually, when it came out in Phantasmal Flames, was paired with the card. Let me find it. Wondrous Patch. Wondrous Patch is a card that is another Psychic Energy Acceleration card that is also a bit of a deck builder, not quite to the same extent of Gardevoir EX. Obviously, Gardevoir EX, you need to put a lot of resources into. Wondrous Patch, you don't need to put as many resources into. So this is, again, not really a full deck build around. You're building around the main Pokemon there. That being said, it is a card that allows you to accelerate Psychic Energy from your discard to Psychic Pokemon in play. It is to bench, and it is just one per Wondrous Patch. This is seen play in Standard, really, in Alakazam. I guess also Slowking, though that's kind of not a very good deck. But yeah, post rotation, you could use Wondrous Patch. I guess I'll also mention Mega Gardevoir EX, but that's pretty different, and I don't think that card's very good. But Wondrous Patch is legitimately an all-right replacement, a better one that I thought we were going to get here. And we have the next card. Also, I'm going in order by set. So the next one we have here is Arven. Arven is a very powerful trainer in Standard. It's a supporter, which we will see a few supporters in this video, and this is a setup supporter searching for an item and a tool revealing it put into your hand. This card is obviously good because it gets you a tool, but it's mostly good because it gets you an item, which can then get you like anything. If we look at Charizard, Pidgeot here, you're ignoring Pidgeot, which gets you anything. Arven can get you any item, which can get you any Pokemon, and it can't get you any energy, but in this deck you don't really need that, and you certainly could do that if you wanted to. Obviously, it can get you any tool as well directly, and that's most of your deck. It can't get you any supporter, stadium, or special energy, but that's like fine. I mean, you don't need another supporter really, or stadium. That being said, there's a card that can. Of course, that is Team Rocket's Petrol. Team Rocket's Petrol, I've talked a lot about. This card is it's just pretty good getting you any trainer and putting it into your hand. I mean, I've said this a bunch, and I've heard a lot of people say this a bunch. I'm not going to spend too much time on it here. Unlike God of War, I spent a lot more time because that's a lot more difficult of a discussion. But Team Rocket's Petrol, as I said, Arvin's mostly looking for the item. Petrol, probably mostly getting an item, which again can get you most things, can get you any Pokemon. Really, with Ultra Ball, you will be discarding cards, but that's like not too bad. And ultimately, Team Rocket's Petrol is a very, very good replacement for Arvin. There are some interesting pros and cons between the two, but ultimately we don't really need to talk about them too much because they are somewhat relevant. But I mean, you can legitimately have this as a one-to-one replacement. It doesn't get you a tool and an item turn one, so going for a very specific turn one play with something like TM, whatever one of the setup TMs would not really be a thing you're looking to do with Petrol, but it's like fine for the most part. It's going to be about so it can't get you Air Balloon and an item either, but that's fine. I think Team Rocket's Petrol is just like super good, and yeah, definitely a card you want to keep in mind and potentially get before rotation as well, because it'll probably go up in price. Then we have the next card here, which is Nest Ball. Nest Ball is leaving the format without a true replacement. This one is a bit weirder of a discussion. I originally was gonna like not include this, but I was like, this is like arguably the best card in standard, and so I can't like not include it. Nest Ball is a card that is a Pokemon search card. It's a ball search card. It is one of the like main ways to get Pokemon, and probably the main way to get basics. I mean, it gets you just a basic an item onto your bench, which is good. We have Buddy Buddy Poffin, we have Ultra Ball, then we have Nest Ball. Those are the three in standard right now. But we do have Pokepad as well. So Pokepad will add a fourth one there. You don't really need 16 of these. You're looking for maybe 12. Of course, Pokepad does not work in every deck, but Buddy Poffin also does not work in every deck. That being said, Ultra Ball does, so kind of just replace Nest Balls with Ultra Balls. Of course, that comes up with a different problem of like, what if you're playing 4 Ultra Ball and 4 Nest Ball? You can't replace your 4 Nest Balls with 4 Ultra Balls because they're already there. So the solution is, I don't know. I'm not actually sure what the solution is. There is Precious Trolley. I guess I'll mention that. If you know me, you know I'm a bit of a Precious Trolley hater. I think the specs, I don't know if it's bad, but I just seem to get unlucky with it, so I just don't like it. But if someone has a better suggestion other than just play Ultra Balls, then play decks that can use Buddy Hoffman or Pokepad. I mean, most decks can use Pokepad, so realistically, replace this with Pokepad is going to be fine in something like Dragapult or I mean, most stacks, but it's not going to work in something like Mega Absol or maybe even something like Terra Box. But in those stacks, you can replace it with something like Mega Signal or Terra Orb. It would actually probably work in Terra Box. I just said that because of Terra Orb, though. And yeah, I mean, those cards are going to be nice options as well to replace Nest Ball with that leaving. I mean, they are worse, but they are okay replacements. So as an actual replacement, that's what you're looking for. But I think it's shifting the item search suite from Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, but anyway, Poffin to and I'm talking before Ascended Heroes, then post Ascended Heroes, and then post rotation, it's going to be Pokepad added to that mix. Then we will be losing Nest Ball the rotation. So we still have the same amount of really powerful search cards that are also quite versatile. They just are a little different in their use cases. But I mean, even in something like Dragapult, well, you couldn't get your Fezandipiti EX or Latias EX or Bloating Luna EX off of Pokepad. You can get your Drakelokes and your Dusclops and a Dusknoir there, so it's arguably better. I mean, they are different, but yeah, definitely a really good card there. That's a bit of a replacement. Next one we have is another supporter from Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet is a base set. I've talked about this a little in the past, where there's some like weird mixing of base sets with the Mega era because of the way they've done it a little differently. But anyways, Professor's Research is very good. Honestly, I have said this before. I would not be shocked if this card. I mean, it is going to rotate, but I wouldn't be shocked if it gets reprinted soon in the future. Right now in Standard, we have 3 main draw supporters, as well as Arvin and a search supporter, which we just mentioned. But Professor's Research is one of the best draw supporters, if not the best pure draw supporter in the game, depending where you stand with that and Lily's Determination. I would say Lily's is better, and I made a video ranking post-rotation supporters, and said Lily's is going to be amazing because Research is rotating, so you could replace Research with Lily's, but again, same issue that arises when you're replacing Nest Ball with Ultra Ball. I also didn't say Ultra Ball discards you cards, which is, like, bad, usually, but I think it's not a huge downside there. It's something you can definitely live with if you have to. But Research is something that you're probably often playing alongside Lilies. You might be playing 4 Lilies already, but I think if you're playing Research, you're probably at least playing 5 in combination of Research and Lilies, so that's not going to be really a replacement option there, but that is the one I would recommend first. But then we have Carmen. Carmen is like not a great replacement. You just go to hand draw 5. Can use a turn when going first. I think Carmen is cool with Meowth. I've said that a bunch in the past, but looking at tournament results, we haven't seen it done too much. But anyways, that's for a later conversation, as in like a few minutes. So don't leave. But yeah, Carmen is a card that is an okay replacement. There's also the supporter. I believe it's Naveen. Yeah, you can discard any number of cards for hand, then draw until you have 5 in hand. At worst, ignoring the turn 1 thing, this is like Carmen, right? But it could be different than Carmen, better than Carmen, right? So you could choose to keep an important card and then still draw a good chunk of cards. It's then functioning pretty differently than Research at that point, but it is essentially a better Carmen as the game goes on. I don't know how much play Naveen's been seeing. It's been seeing some. It's not like crazy amounts of play, but it's definitely an okay supporter and an okay replacement for Research. Again, it is different, but it is a good draw supporter with some utility, or an okay draw supporter with some utility. Next one we have here is Squawkabilly EX, which I just mentioned, or I didn't mention. I mentioned Meowth EX for a turn 1 Carmen search. Meowth EX is a search for a supporter on play from hand, but Squawkabilly EX is a card that you discard to hand draw 6 turn 1. And this card is very powerful for some powerful burst draw turn 1, and I quite simply think the replacement is Meowth EX into Carmen, which I think is a nice play worth going for. This again has like the issue of that we've kind of been talking about this whole video, where you can't do like if you're already doing something, you can't just do it again because you're not allowed to. So like if you're already playing, if you want a Carmen and Squawkabilly EX, then Meowth EX isn't helping with that. I mean, it's helping you get the Carmen, but it's not getting you the extra draw. You're just getting one of those draws instead of 2, but I think that's okay. And I do think that is the best replacement. I think Meowth EX is a good and underrated card, maybe. Just a card that I think is a nice replacement for Squawkabilly. It functions differently. It honestly fills a role between Squawkabilly EX and Fezandipity EX, helping with setup some, helping with late game stuff some, but also having some more limitations than those two. But definitely a card I'd be looking for. Also, I guess I'll show Meowth EX. With some weird wording on Meowth EX that might mean something in the future. I've talked about honestly a bunch on the channel with the like trump card naming thing where it like refers to other abilities containing a similar part of its name, which is kind of bizarre, but that's for the future probably, or it could be something that never comes up. I don't know. But ultimately, I guess if you have any thoughts on the part of the name where it like refers to part of its name, as opposed to just saying you can't use more than one trump card cast, but you can't use more than one ability with a trump card in its name. Tell me your thoughts on that in the comment section below. I'd really be interested in hearing people's thoughts if they have any like predictions there. But anyways, Meowth EX I think is the best replacement there. Then we have arguably the best card rotating. In my opinion, it's the best card rotating, though I've said this a lot. There's a lot of good cards rotating. But Iono is a card that says each player shuffles the hand, puts on the bottom of their deck, draws 1 for each of their remaining prize cards. It's a bit of a wordy card, but it's a simple disruption draw supporter, a pretty simple disruption draw supporter. And this card, I mean, this card is quite simply very good at disruption and at draw. It obviously has issues at points in the game, but it's very good, right? It's very, very good. And yeah, I mean, Iono, I think the best replacement is Judge, right? I think it's quite simply Judge. Judge isn't rotating, by the way, or it's getting reprinted. So if you're wondering about that, I've gotten a few questions and comments about that, and I've also was confused by that at first, or wrong. I thought it was rotating. But anyways, Judge is a card here that shuffles each player's hand into their deck, and then they draw 4. I guess I'll say the shuffle into versus shuffle on the bottom is a little different, but let's be honest, it doesn't really matter that much. It matters from time to time. But ultimately, this draws each player 4, which is more well-rounded than Iono. It's a worse draw supporter, which is, I think, the biggest issue with it, but it's still good. As specifically as like early game disruption, it's good. Applying consistent pressure to your opponent's hand, which is nice, is by far the best disruptive supporter, I think. There's also Lucian and the other supporter, Harlequin, which are like kind of similar. They're pretty not good. I mean, I'd say they're just like worse than Judge. They have like random coin flip elements to them, but ultimately Judge is this is a pretty solid card. As a pure draw supporter, you could just be playing more Capsulo's Determination as well. Again, if you're losing research, I mean, I have a deck where I play, I think, 3 research, or I mean, I have a deck with 4 research, 4 Iono, 4 Lilies, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to be doing with that. I think that deck also plays Arven. It might play 4 research, 4 Iono, 4 Lilies, 4 Arven, if I'm not mistaken, which is like kind of crazy. The deck it's the Tortuga deck, if you're wondering, which is like kind of bad, but ultimately, yeah, this isn't the perfect replacement there. I don't have a perfect replacement. Again, if anyone has thoughts on like different suggestions, leave them in the comment section. But I think Judge is the best one here. Not exactly a one-to-one replacement, but I think if you slot it in that way, it's not terrible there. Then we have the next card, which actually does have a shockingly good one-to-one replacement in Charizard EX. Charizard EX, on play, you accelerate a bunch of energies from your deck, really just kind of to itself. Then you do damage, you do 180 for 2. Yes, you do more damage later on, but you do 180 for 2, and you accelerate energies to pay your attack cost. And your Darkness Pokemon with like 300 something HP. That's a stage 2 with a non-playability. And yeah, I mean, this is like essentially the same exact card as Mars Grimstyle EX, which again accelerates energy to itself on evolution. Is a Darkness stage 2 with essentially the same HP and similar damage. Yes, I do think Charizard EX is better. This is what I said at the reveal of Mars Grimstyle EX is a worse Charizard EX, and I think I've stood by that this entire time in Standard. That being said, yeah, I mean, this is not that much worse than Charizard. They're pretty similar. In terms of how they've been played, people play them pretty differently. This uses Darkness Energy, which enables it to play Munkidori and Froslass. Also is already doing some spread damage. But if you want to play this very similarly to Charizard EX as a card, I think it works perfectly fine within that role. Yes, it is different. Yes, it synergizes worse with Duststorm, but it's a good card, and I think people are just overlooking the fact that this is just like Charizard. It's like essentially the same as Charizard. There was also Steven's Metagross EX, which is like kind of similar, but it's a bit different there. But I will mention that just briefly. Then we have, of course, the partner of Charizard EX, which is Pidgeot EX. Generally, these are like almost always played together. They don't have to be, but they are usually. And yeah, this allows you every turn to search your deck for a Pokemon, or search your deck for any card, could be a Pokemon, Energy Trainer, whatever, and put it into your hand. You don't need to reveal it either because it is any card there. It does have some other stuff going on with it, but that doesn't really matter. Pidgeot EX is definitely an interesting conversation here. I think I have 2 different ideas. Pidgeot EX, I said, is mostly paired with Charizard EX. And within that role, I think the best way to do this post-rotation would be pairing it with Noctowl. Noctowl is a card that allows you to search for any 2 trainers on evolution, which is very nice, right? Getting any 2 cards is good. Pidgeot EX in Standard right now is being played with a Noctowl, but Noctowl is like a really nice option there. Pidgeot EX almost a secondary option, so you could build it kind of like this list, maybe lean even more into Noctowl. I don't know, but that's going to be pretty good there. The other deck that Pidgeot sees play in is Pidgeot Control. Obviously, okay, so I made a tier list, and then I like glued Pidgeot because I was like, this is the card that represents control. And then people were like, Pidgeot's rotating. I was like, did you watch the video? And then they stopped. They didn't say anything, so I think we know the answer. But Pidgeot EX is a card that is really been representative of control since it's come out because it gets you consistent search options. And while this option might be kind of stupid, I think it's fun. It's what I've been playing recently. That's Festival Lead Control with Thwackey. Thwacky's interesting, letting you search for you have to search for any card every turn, and you can use multiple Boom Grooves, unlike you only use one quick search per turn, which is like cool. You did Pokemon in the active with Festival Lead, which isn't too bad. Though it is like obviously a bit of a commitment, so it's something that you're kind of, I don't know. It's a bit of an issue, but it's not like a horrendous issue. Ultimately, though, I think Thwackey is a card that is good, right? It's a card that's pretty good as a replacement in control. It's kind of janky, but it works okay. You could use something like Dracloak or some other draw engine, but I think Thwackey is a really, really cool card for control. Then we have the next card, which is Gholdengo EX. Well, Gholdengo EX itself, as like a card, doesn't really have a great replacement. I think there's some like psychic cards in perfect order that are kind of replacements for it, but like they're not, or they do something similar, but they're not really replacements in terms of power level or like how they play. I mean, I think they're multiple energies, but anyways, you have Serala GX. I've said this for a long time. I think Gholdengo EX and Serala GX are pretty similar decks with similar play styles, and yeah, I mean Gholdengo EX. Also, we are losing Zephyr Energy Retrieval, so if you want to go for something with a similar play pattern to Gholdengo EX, that's just like not good because we are losing that card. You could try something. It's not like it would be terrible with the Superior Energy Retrieval rotating, in my opinion. It's not like great, but it would probably be okay-ish. But anyways, Gholdengo EX, I think, as I said, plays similarly to Sailor Lich. It's a 1 energy stage 1. Pretty straightforward. Sailor Lich is more straightforward than Gholdengo. But yeah, I mean, they are both currently playing the Lunatone Solrock engine as well. So ultimately, yeah, I mean, I think Gholdengo EX, replacing that with Serala GX. If you're looking for a deck to replace, I will be doing a full video in the future as well, so subscribe so you don't miss that one, where I'm going to be going over decks and what deck you should play post-rotation, because just saying, like, oh, if you're playing Gardevoir, you should play a Wondrous Patch deck, I don't think that's really true. But ultimately, Gholdengo EX, I think, saying if you're playing Gholdengo, you should play Sailor Lich, I think is a pretty, that's certainly my thought there. Then we have the last card, which is TM Evolution. TM Evolution does a couple of things, and this one's also interesting to talk about. It is a tool. I mentioned it with Arven as well. Obviously, you're not doing that because you're not doing like any of those pieces, but TM Evolution lets you evolve quicker, lets you search for evolutions, and it's something you do turn one as well. In some sense, saying you replace with Budew is actually an interesting option, because Budew is like a turn one option that slows your opponent down, letting you evolve, or like making them evolve slower than you're evolving faster in comparison. So it's kind of similar. You can also replace this with search options like Pokepad or something like that. And then you can also replace this with Rare Candy if you're playing this. I mean, there are decks that play like Rare Candy and TM Evolution as two options, but you'll just be going with Rare Candy. You could use Grand Tree as well if you want to. Ultimately, I think the option, it really depends on how you're using this, but I think replacing it with Rare Candy is probably the most logical option most of the time. On top of that, you could also replace it with, as I was saying, Budew for the turn one play. And if you're looking for the search aspects of it, you can replace it with Pokepad. Yes, it does all three of those things. Grand Tree, I guess, does those things in general, but that's also an ace spec, and that's like not really what I'd recommend there. But I say, kind of identify what your deck is looking to get most from this card, and then replace it with the option that I mentioned there. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, all those cards are good and potentially in your deck already. I mean, I guess if you're not a stage 2 deck, then Rare Candy's not in your deck, and you obviously shouldn't play it there. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely an interesting option. I'd also really be interested in hearing people's thoughts on this card down below in the comment section. And I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Comment down below any ideas you have for other videos as well if you want to see those. But I hope you enjoyed. And as Osmond said, see you in the next video.